They say that the things we handle with care begin to host a soul. If that's true, then what lives within the trash we throw away? The story begins with a wealthy little girl tossing away her stuffed animal, a brand new gift, just because it got torn. Her mother tells her it's not worth fixing, especially when they can easily buy a new one. In the end, the toy is discarded. In this world, people quickly turn things into trash and then treat that trash as if it were something filthy, never again giving it any value. This applies to people as well. We see a security guard at the landfill catching a boy rummaging through bags. He demands to know who the boy is and says it's forbidden to touch the garbage, pulling out a pistol. The boy, wearing a cape, looks at him calmly. The guard wonders if he's the troublemaker from the dump. He calls for backup, and several armed men arrive. The boy, our protagonist, simply shrugs, picks up bags of trash, and throws them at the guards before bolting. They open fire. In this world, even trash likely has great value. Bullets graze him, but he keeps running, escaping quickly. Looking back, he sees he's lost them and mutters, "This isn't vandalism, you bastard." Cut to another part of the city. People of high social status go about their day, chatting and living in comfort. Suddenly, a stranger walks through the city, and everyone notices his odd clothing. They ask if he's a native and tell him to go back to the dump he came from. The man crosses the street, leaving the noble part of town behind, and enters the suburb, his home. It's a filthy place, full of people surviving on scraps, abandoned by society. Ludo, the boy, is on the ground tending to his little trash shop. Shaw approaches him, asking if he went to the city again to collect trash. She warns him how dangerous that is and how serious things could get if he's caught again. Ludo explains that people throw away things like they're worthless, broken, unwanted, or out of style, even though they can be fixed and reused. He says he remembers his teacher, though he doesn't know why. Shaw tells him he's very talented with trash. Some boys then show up and start insulting him, saying he stinks. They tell Shaw not to get close, claiming his hands bear the mark of a killer. They mock his clothes, though they're dressed similarly. Ludo remains silent until they call him the son of a murderer. One boy explains the suburb was originally created to imprison criminals, so everyone living there is descended from them. People have tried for years to change that image, since they're not responsible for their ancestors' crimes. But thanks to Ludo's father, who killed someone, they believe they'll never fix their reputation. Ludo clenches his fists and glares with a killer stare, scaring the boys off. Shaw comforts him, saying she knows he's not a killer and that he's different from his parents. She hugs him, surprising him. She spots the stuffed bear he repaired and offers it to her. But her mother appears and pulls her away. As she takes the bear, someone unseen is eavesdropping. Ludo finally arrives home to find someone waiting. The man mocks him, saying, "So, no sales today? I can give you this if you want. That's what you were trying to say, right?" Ludo argues with Legito, saying he can't just spy on people. Legito stares at him and demands to know more about this trash hunting he's been doing. In the end, Legito says he has no financial responsibility toward the house. Ludo insists he was raised by Legito since he was a baby and has to help somehow. Legito notices Ludo's injury and asks if he's been shot again. The again part is alarming. He bandages Ludo up, and Ludo brushes off the injury, saying it's nothing compared to what his father did to him. We get a close-up of Ludo's hands, completely black and wrapped in bandages. Ludo begs Legito not to follow his path. In this world, criminals are discarded, and if caught, he'll likely be thrown into the abyss, just like his father. Value your life, Ludo, even in a world as rotten as this one. While tending to the wound, Legito remembers Ludo's childhood, how people feared and rejected his black hands, how he had to hide their ugliness. But once Legito gave him gloves, the pain stopped, and he never took them off again. Ludo thanks Legito for everything. And you know what they say in anime, if someone thanks you deeply, death usually follows. Legito advises Ludo not to hide his feelings from Shaw next time, and to give her the bear himself. The scene cuts to a masked man who is listening to Ludo and Legito's conversation. Next day, Ludo walks and stares into the abyss. following that old saying, "If you gaze into the abyss gazes back." In truth, the abyss is a massive, bottomless pit where no one knows what lies below, only that it's where all trash and criminals go. While staring, Ludo witnesses an execution. Shaw shows up and asks what he's doing there. He says he's just thinking about life. She talks about the execution, saying that everyone who lives there eventually sees one. She tells Ludo she doesn't want him to end up the same way, discarded into the abyss, because she cares about him. Ludo gets flustered, hands her the bear, and runs off. She calls out that she'll treasure it forever. Ludo rushes home to tell Legito what happened with Shaw. But he bumps into the same masked man, who flees upon seeing Ludo's face. Ludo arrives home to find the door open. He cheerfully announces, "Guess what, Legito? I talked to Shaw today." Then stops. Legito lies on the floor, a sword stabbed through his chest. Ludo drops to his knees, confused and panicked. "Legito, what happened? Are you still alive? I can't leave you alone right now." Legito grabs him by the collar and whispers, "Please change this shitty world." Before Ludo can react, he's shot in the back. Guards pin him down, shouting they've captured the murderer. Ludo screams that it wasn't him, but Legito dies. Covered in blood, Ludo hears the guards mocking him, calling all natives filthy. He begs them to release him, then blacks out. Next day, Shaw runs to see who's being executed. She arrives to find Ludo tied up at the edge of the abyss. During the trial, people declare that he committed a terrible crime in the sacred upper district and must be thrown into the abyss. May its darkness consume all his filth. The judge condemns him to death. Shaw watches. Ludo pleads with her to find the real killer. She turns away and says, "In the end, you really were your father's son." She drops the bear he gave her. Ludo shouts, "You're the filthy ones. You're the scum with no will of your own. You see, hear, and feel, but you ignore all of it." As he yells, he spots the real killer, the one who murdered Legito, watching his execution. The ropes are cut. Ludo is thrown into the abyss. "I'll throw you all into hell. Every last one of you humans. I'll kill you all," he screams. Ludo falls into the abyss's darkness. In the distance, he sees a giant shadow. His eyes begin to glow strangely. He awakens in a vast heap of trash swarmed by larvae. Around him is only darkness and faint light. Looking deeper, he sees a massive creature approaching. So this is the abyss, the place where everything discarded ends up. Humans, trash, filth. Finally, the creature steps into view, its giant teeth ready to devour him. The scene cuts again to what they call paradise, the place where people live normally. They are commenting that another native has been discarded into the abyss. A little boy overhears the conversation and says, "I always thought it was strange how they talk about people being thrown away, but never mention what happens after they are thrown." Back to our boy Rudo. He is desperately running from several corrupted creatures. These creatures begin to chase him, eager to take a bite or two out of him. He wonders, what the hell are those things? Are they just clusters of trash? They charge at Rudo, asking for just a small piece, saying they won't swallow everything at once. Rudo dodges to the side, and as he looks around for a place to land, he finds himself holding a human skull in his hands. He begins to scream in desperation, saying, "How dare the people from up there throw me into a place like this?" While struggling, he doesn't notice that he's standing at the edge of a precipice filled with trash. He slips and falls down below. He feels a strange weight in his lungs and realizes the air is different. Soon, he starts vomiting blood. The creatures that lost sight of him begin to sniff the blood and the sound he makes. Rudo is about to give up, accepting his death when he closes his eyes and sees the image of a dead person. He wakes up in a fury and says that he can't just abandon everything. He still has so much to do because he needs to take revenge on the people who threw him down there and kill the person who killed him. Rudo picks up a piece of pipe in his hand and heads toward the corrupted creatures. As he advances toward his death, a strange person watches everything from afar. Rudo, while moving toward those creatures, says that they stink more than the farts Leg used to let out. Look at that joy. In the end, he manages to destroy one of the creatures, but is soon repelled by another's attack. He grabs a zinc sheet from the ground, moves toward one of the creatures, and uses the same zinc sheet like a blade, slicing it from one side of its mouth to the other. He falls to the ground, extremely tired, and a pile of trash is thrown at him. Unable to dodge, it's likely that our boy will die, but the same guy who had been watching him from afar with an umbrella appears. He grabs Rudo by the collar, lifts him as high as possible, and kicks him in the back, making him vomit all the blood he had accumulated. Finally, he shoves a mask into his mouth and asks, "What the hell is going on?" Rudo, not understanding anything, asks, "Who is this strange man, and what place is this that I'm in?" The man begins to speak to him, but his voice is a bit too quiet. Rudo starts shouting, saying that he doesn't understand anything the man is saying, and the man loses his mind, screaming even louder, saying that this place is not the underworld. Normally, he doesn't scream like that, but it's because of this idiot that he has to speak so loudly. The creatures end up hearing him, thanks to the shouter boy just made, and the man explains to him that those creatures are called corrupted beasts, and as he can see, those creatures are made of trash, that they can regenerate from any attack dealt by a common weapon. Then he pulls out his umbrella, which was just a small thread, and it begins to transform into an umbrella full of blades. Saying that he felt relieved after shouting, he says, "It's time to start the cleaning." He begins to spin his umbrella, and a shockwave in a spiral is thrown toward one of the creatures. He obliterates it easily, and our boy Rudo watches it disintegrate right in front of him. He wonders if that man is special, or if his umbrella is special, and if he had such a skill, he could take revenge on everyone up there and the person who killed Legito. Finally, this same man uses his umbrella, jumps as high as he can, and while closing his umbrella, he says, "Breaker 8 tears." His umbrella falls toward the monster like a spear and impales it. The masked man takes off his mask and says, "I am Engine a cleaner," and then puts the mask back on because that place reeks too much. Returning to the memories of our boy Rudo, Legito sees him completely dirty and asks what happened. He says some boys made him trip. Since Rudo told the boys that things have lives and shouldn't be wasted in any way, but they laughed at me. Rudo reminded Legito that once he was told by Legito that if you cherish for a long time a soul will dwell in it. Legito stands up asking Rudo, "Did you hit them back or not?" Rudo shakes his head confirming that he did not hit them back. Legito appreciated that kind of act of Rudo. Legito tells him not to take things too seriously, as it's just a proverb. But even so, he still believes in it, that everything, no matter what it is, has a soul, as long as you take care of it. Even this towel. And as soon as he says that, he wipes our boy Rudo's face. Rudo begins to feel happy and asks about all the things in the room, including the gloves he's carrying in his hands as souls. Legito told him once again that if he treats it with care, it will surely host a soul one day. Returning to our present time, Rudo is being dragged, completely tied up with chains. He asks why Engine is doing this, and Engine says that he's carrying him in a good sense of insecurity. Soon, he gets pissed off as usual, demanding to be released as he wants to go back to the upper world, but Engine said it's impossible to go back from here. We called it Haven here. Engine turns back to Rudo and asks him how he will reach the sky anyway. It's impossible because the heaven is consistently moving, and there are lots of other reasons also, but right now if you understand that, then please shut your mouth. As he says this, Rudo remembers the people who wronged him and the people who abandoned him, and of course, our boy wants revenge. In the end, he says he will return to the surface and wipe out everyone who betrayed him. Engine says it's impossible, while continuing to drag our boy through the trash, chained up. He explains that paradise is always in motion, so until now, only a few people know how to go up there. Rudo keeps insisting on Engine telling him about the things of that world. Engine, getting pissed off, takes off his mask and says, "If you insist so much on this, I'll teach you everything about this world. I'll show you everything that is purgatory." They approach a rift ahead of them that leads to a shed with 2 trucks and the shipment. Rudo is thrown towards them. Soon, Engine turns his back and says, "The rest is up to you." Rudo gets up and yells at him that he didn't teach him anything. While Rudo sensed something odd there, strange men step out of the truck and approach Rudo, asking, "Is this a child? I thought there was someone else with him." They move a little closer and ask, "Are you from the Paradise people?" Rudo confirms, and they all start jumping for joy, saying they had never seen one of those alive, as all of them end up reaching the abyss dead. They begin to say they will release Rudo because it's not good for him to stay tied up like that. Rudo believes they are good people, and when he realizes it, he's tied to the back of the truck. The men approach him, and they say, "So, you thought we would simply release you and treat you kindly? You're very wrong. Everyone here in this place hates the people from Paradise, completely selfish people who discard everything they see in front of them. And all this accumulated trash releases this toxic cloud that turns everything into horrendous creatures, making the air almost impossible to breathe. Many people from this place we live in harbor hatred for the people of Paradise, and they will pay a heavy price to torture you." He moves a little closer to Rudo, grabs a portion of rotten food, and says, "You're very skinny. How about eating a little?" They take the same portion and shove it into Rudo's mouth. The horrible taste makes Rudo choke for a moment. He approaches with another piece of meat and says, "Live. Eat well. It's not as tasty as the food from up there, but you'll like it." The idiot makes the mistake of putting his hand into Rudo's mouth. Rudo bites it, along with 2 of his fingers, completely ripping the skin off his fingers. He starts screaming in desperation, and Rudo, while eating the food from the ground, says, "This food is still completely edible. This is not trash. I'm tired of hearing everyone complain." Rudo breaks his chains, and a power emanates from his gloves. Everyone around him is shocked, and our boy, Engine, is observing everything from afar, saying that he is not mistaken about the boy. Rudo then starts activating an unknown power, and the chains tied to his arms turn into blades. The people charge at him, saying he is a giver, a person who gives power to other things, but they say that since he just transformed, he won't have enough power. They move toward Rudo, and Rudo tries to attack them with his cutting chain, but he ends up dodging and takes a hit to the head. As he looks back, he sees an abandoned will thrown into the trash. He picks it up with his hand, and as soon as he touches it, it also transforms. Engine, in the background, is surprised because he can transform more than one thing. Everyone there is shocked, and before Rudo ends the man's life, Engine appears, grabbing his arm, and says that it's enough, that he will teach him everything about that world as long as he agrees to join the cleaners. Rudo looks at him with his nose bleeding and says, "I don't want to." Engine is on the phone, talking to his boss, saying that he found something very interesting, that in the middle of the trash heap, he found a valuable resource for the cleaners. Meanwhile, our boy Rudo is being examined by an old woman. She says that he was lucky to be alive from that place. Since he inhaled a lot of toxic gas from the trash heap, the old woman continues saying that she is a woman, not an old man, and asks for payment, demanding that he leave there as quickly as possible. As he leaves, Rudo continues following Engine and says that he didn't accept to join the cleaners and that the only thing that matters to him is going back to the surface. The scene cuts to Rudo eating a tasty little snack while Engine tells him that he vomited a lot after eating the wash they gave him and to pay attention because soon he will begin the practical course on purgatory. He starts explaining as follows: in purgatory, along with the trash, it's easy to accumulate various emotions, also called thoughts. As he does this, he drips a few drops of a white liquid into water, and it reached a point where it accumulated so much that it turned into energy and caused several phenomena, like the emergence of pseudo-creatures. Whenever they get the chance, they attack humans. As a rule, they live outside the city in areas piled with trash, but often invade these cities. In the end, Rudo asks if it wouldn't be easier to live in a fortress, and our boy Engine continues saying that it would be easier, but humans weren't born to be confined. Finally, he concludes his explanation by saying that these pseudo-creatures can only be destroyed by uncommon weapons, and the power of these uncommon weapons is generated by the thoughts and care of humans during their lives. If you take good care of an object, it's very likely that it will acquire an inherent hidden power, like a cook's knife that was carefully sharpened or a pen that accompanied a writer for many years. If things continue to be used for a long time and with great care, they will host a thought. We call this object a persona weapon. In the end, Rudo understands all of this. Rudo says that he understands his position as a giver, a person who can use the abilities of persona weapons, and that he is necessary for that world. However, he still wants to go back up there. Engine says that he doesn't have much of a choice because he needs to talk to his boss about the issue of going back up there, as he doesn't know anything about it. At that very moment, Rudo gets pissed off, as he thought he would learn something about how to return to that place. In the end, he decides to join the cleaners until he figures out how to go back to where he came from. Engine then takes a small bag of money and throws it toward him, saying that this is his first payment. He asks Engine if that won't be a problem, and Engine replies, saying, "I got this money by selling my clothes, so it's no problem for me, you lazy bastard." As Rudo curses Engine, a cat jumps onto the table, grabs his money bag, and runs off at full speed. Rudo chases after it. Rudo sees a little stick with a strange man holding it. He pulls it from his hand and uses the same stick to immobilize the cat. He approaches, grabs his money bag, and the man slowly walks toward him. "Hey, kid, give that back. Who do you think you are, stealing someone else's pseudo-weapon?" Rudo doesn't understand what's happening. The strange man stretches out his hands, grabs his stick, and soon transforms it into a pseudo-weapon. Rudo then realizes that he is part of the cleaners. Looking at him, a huge blade is now in his hand. "We just met, and it looks like I'm going to need to teach you a lesson. I'll make you taste my companion there, and if you don't want to feel the taste of my companion, then subscribe to the Freak Manhwa Recaps channel."
Before Rudo can explain himself, the boy with the stick throws his stick toward him, saying that he better be careful if he's going to mess with someone else's special stick. The man says Rudo name. Hearing his name, Rudo asks him, how did he know his name? In the end, Zanka Nijik stepped forward, resting his stick on his shoulder. He introduced himself as part of Akuta, a cleaner, and said Engine had assigned him to educate Rudo, but clearly he hadn't expected to start with basic decency. He scoffed, stating bluntly that if someone steals, they deserve a beating. Rudo snapped back, saying the cat had taken his money. He wasn't stealing. But before he could finish, Zanka pointed at him, coldly remarking that it was obvious he hadn't been raised right. Rudo's voice cracked with frustration as he muttered about being judged by someone who knew nothing about him, or about Regto, the man who had raised him. But then, a memory surfaced. Regto's calm voice echoed in his mind. "If you want others to listen to you, you've got to compromise first. If you keep losing your temper, even Chiwa-chan will start to hate you. Take a moment, cool your head, think about how they're feeling." His expression shifted. Eyes wide, Rudo paused. Other people's feelings. That was it. Zanka had snapped because he believed something precious had been stolen. And if someone had taken Rudo's gloves, he'd probably lose it too. Realization hit. He lowered his gaze. He took a quiet breath, then spoke sincerely. Not in defense, but in apology. He hadn't meant to take something important. He didn't know it mattered that much. He was sorry. Zanka's weapon softened, shifting back into its original stick-like form. His tone eased as he nodded. He admitted that he'd overreacted. This stick was his treasure after all. He hadn't meant to scare Rudo, it had just flustered him. Rudo blinked, his expression changing as something unfamiliar stirred inside him. For the first time he realized what it felt like to make peace with someone. Regto was right, he thought. Zanka extended a hand to help him up, brushing off the tension. He asked if Rudo was planning to join the janitors and said that, despite the rough start, he looked forward to working together. Then, with curiosity, he asked which item was Rudo's jinky and what ability it carried. Rudo glanced down at his gloves. "Ah, it's probably these," he said uncertainly. As for the ability, he wasn't sure yet. Zanka leaned in to get a better look at Rudo's gloves, his expression lighting up. He let out an impressed hum, noting how cool they looked. Rudo stared at him in surprise. He seems different, he thought. Was it the smile? That shift in energy reminded him of Regto's old advice, to fix his sour face. Smiling could change how people saw you. Can I really smile? He wondered. Well, I practiced enough up there. Time to show it. Determined, he braced himself and forced a smile. Zanka, oblivious to the internal build-up, casually asked why Rudo had decided to join the janitors. With an awkward, almost creepy grin stretching across his face, Rudo replied that he had joined, sort of. He clarified that he'd only be helping out until he reached his goal. Zanka recoiled instantly. His voice shot up, accusing Rudo of mocking him with that bizarre face. Confused and slightly offended, Rudo muttered that he didn't understand why Zanka was so mad. He'd tried his best to smile. Zanka backed up a step, flustered. He wasn't even sure what kind of expression Rudo had attempted. All he knew was that it looked deeply unsettling. Panicking, Rudo wondered what had gone wrong. Were my eyes too wide? Should I have shown my teeth? He tried again, this time keeping both eyes and mouth shut. Zanka nearly exploded. He demanded to know if Rudo had gone completely insane. No way a smile could be that terrifying. It looked like he was mocking him. Rudo shouted back, frustrated. That's my line. He was genuinely smiling. What was with Zanka's attitude? But Zanka wasn't letting it slide. He accused Rudo of being full of himself after being called a prodigy by Engine. Every day, Zanka said, he risked his life fighting aberrant beasts and all kinds of dangers. And here was Rudo saying he'd only help out until he achieved his goal, like it was something special. Then he snapped, claiming Rudo's goal was probably worthless anyway. Those words struck deep. Rudo froze, then remembered Regto's dying words. You have to change this shitty world. His expression hardened. He stepped forward, anger rising. Did you just say my goal is worthless? He snapped. I'm serious too. I'll give it everything I have. Don't you dare underestimate me. Zanka's grip tightened around his stick as it began to pulse with power, sharp edges forming as energy surged through it. He grit his teeth, frustration boiling over. He had known from the very start he and Rudo were never going to get along. Across from him, Rudo silently reached into a nearby trash bin and pulled out a rusted metal rod. With a calm expression, he activated his gloves, sending a surge of power into the rod. Sparks danced along its surface as it transformed before their eyes. Yeah, he muttered. Same here. Zanka's eyes widened in disbelief. His gaze locked on the rod, then dropped to the gloves. Those weren't just cool accessories, they were jinky. But more than that. His voice faltered as the realization hit. Could it be? Was Rudo's ability, the power to turn anything he touched into a jinky? Zanka let out a laugh, his voice echoing with mockery. He called Rudo a cheat. That's why Engine labelled him a prodigy. But genius or not, Zanka claimed, someone super ordinary like him was still out of his league. Without warning, Zanka launched into the air. His weapon spun, glowing with force as he came crashing down, but Rudo managed to dodge, and the strike slammed into the ground. Rudo's eyes widened. When did he get above me? Before he could react, Zanka twisted mid-air and landed a clean hit to Rudo's face, sending him flying backward. He followed with a flurry of attacks, his voice taunting between each swing. Rudo was slow, just a kid with a jinky and nothing else. Zanka's weapon, just a stick, still outclassed him. Enraged, Rudo lunged forward, but Zanka read the move easily, sidestepped, and struck back hard, knocking Rudo to the ground. He sneered, calling the attack pathetic. Just a scum with an ability. Then mid-battle, Zanka paused. Something clung to his face. He yanked it off, sniffed, and instantly recoiled in horror. A plunger. He screamed, furious. A plunger! You can't be serious. Rudo blinked, confused. A plunger? That's it? What's the big deal? Zanka yelled in panic. That thing had poo on it. Rudo had had enough. He shouted back, furious, that it was time to end this nonsense, and launched at him with the plunger in hand. Zanka dodged wildly, panic overtaking pride. As Rudo chased him, confusion flickered across his face. What's his problem? I don't even know what this thing does. But it works. Zanka kept running, waving his hands. Stop! For real! You shouldn't be waving that around. But it was too late. A sudden swing sent a splatter across Zanka's chest. Silence followed. Then a car pulled up. Engine stepped out, taking one look at the mess, and burst out laughing. So you guys are already friends, huh? He said. Fighting while turds were flying around. Never seen anything like that. Zanka tried to hide his face in shame. Such a disgrace. Over some turd. Rudo stared blankly. I really fought with poop. And I was so confident about it. Engine, still grinning, added, Zanka's kind of a young master down here. And now he's covered in poop. I can't stop laughing. Enough! Stop laughing at me! Zanka barked, red with embarrassment. As they all climbed into the car, Rudo noticed someone slouched in the back seat. As the laughter died down and the car rolled forward, Engine leaned back, his grin still lingering. Well, he said, stretching his arms. Turned out to be a pretty interesting first meeting. He pointed casually towards Zanka. This guy's going to be your mentor. Zanka's the best giver when it comes to handling Jinky among the janitors. You'll learn a lot from him. A long pause followed. Zanka froze. Engine acknowledged me? His eyes widened in disbelief. Engine? The engine? Actually acknowledged me? Engine turned to him, surprised. Wait, when did you get here? Ryu. He leaned forward. The figure stretched, brushing his hair back, his tone curious. So, you're Rudo. Rudo blinked. She's a janitor too. Without hesitation, Ryu reached out, running her fingers through his hair. Your hair's awesome. Did you dye it? Rudo stammered. No, it's natural. Internally, he panicked. A woman is messing with my hair. So this is the underworld. Engine clapped his hands. All righty. Time to head out. To our home. The janitor's headquarters.